You know what this kind of snowfall reminds me of? It reminds me of a level in Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo. Isn't snowing, then it picks up and it's snowing really heavily, and then the snow dies down. Yeah. That was the very first video game that I ever played myself. Oh my goodness. Check out this snowfall. Oh, it's good to be back in the office. Stay-at-home orders and the quarantine is still in effect, but there's nobody here at the church and I really need to get some work done. I'm really excited about today. In today's vlog, we are going over the story of David's anointing as well as the story of David and Goliath. Check this out. Look at this. It's a new hat. Came in the mail a couple days ago. It's like kind of this like green. I love it. This is awesome. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Everyone knows about the story of David and Goliath. Even that phrase, David and Goliath, has become somewhat of something that we say in our culture to embody this idea of the underdog overcoming the odds. Probably one of the most famous underdogs ever is the 1980 U.S. men's hockey team that was put together. It was a few college stars with some amateur hockey players, and they beat the Soviets in what was known as the Miracle on Ice. And there's a movie that has been put together that you're probably familiar with about this event. The next one was the 2016 Leicester City Football Club, like soccer football, not football, American football. Their odds of winning the Premier League, which is one of the toughest leagues in the world, was 5,000 to 1. Not only were they slated to not win the league, but they were just trying to fight from being moved down to the bottom league. And in 2016, against all odds, they won the Premier League against teams like Manchester United and Arsenal and Chelsea and all these like well-known soccer teams. Lastly, I will never forget the 2011 season for the Denver Broncos. The Broncos started out with a 1-4 record. Then they inserted Tim Tebow. It was his second year in the league, and they went on a run where they won 6 games in a row. They went from 1-4 to 7-4, and they eventually made the playoffs. They beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first round of the playoffs, and then they lost to the New England Patriots in the round after. But what was crazy about that season was pretty much all 6 of those wins that they got when Tim Tebow was the quarterback, they'd be down like 10 to 14 points with like 2 or 3 minutes left in the game. And somehow, miraculously, they would either come back and tie it and go into overtime, they'd win the game in overtime, or they would just come back and take the lead and win. Like, we used to call it Tebow time. And for you, I'm sure you have your own examples or stories of underdogs, people who beat the odds even though they were completely not in their favor. And that's kind of the story in David and Goliath here. But there's a bigger battle happening here. And really, this story in 1 Samuel 17, I think should be titled this. Not David and Goliath, or David versus Goliath. It really should be titled God versus Goliath. Even David, he, in the story, acknowledges that God is the one who is all-powerful and that God is the one who will overcome Israel's enemies. It's not David. There's nothing special about David here other than the fact that he was just willing and he submitted himself to the Lord. But the true victor here in this story is God himself. And we see that here in really all these chapters here. In chapter 16, in David being anointed, Samuel, he's sorrowful over Saul. God hasn't chose Saul as king anymore, and God says, hey, I've chosen for myself a guy. Go to the house of Jesse in Bethlehem. God was doing that. And we also see that God is the one who removed his spirit from Saul and brought a troubling spirit upon him. And while there might be questions about that, the whole idea there is like he is all powerful. He is in control. Like he has control even over everything in the spiritual realm that we cannot see. And then in chapter 18, we begin to see Saul's attitude towards David change significantly in the sense that he wants to kill him. He's jealous of David. Saul comes up with these grand ideas of, well, I'm going to make David the commander of the armies, and he's going to be in battle a lot, so hopefully he'll die. Or he says, well, if you want my daughter, you need to go to the Philistines and you need to bring back 100 foreskins of Philistines. Like, that's crazy. God gives him victory in all of this. God is the one here. God is the one that is giving the victory. It's not about how cool and awesome and wonderful David is and hey, let's try to be like David and try to be cool and awesome like him. No, it's about God. And if anything, David is a foreshadowing of Jesus Christ. That it's not me, it's not you that delivers us from our sin. It's Jesus himself. It's God working. Without God, without Jesus coming on the scene, we're hopeless. And that's what this is really about. It's not David versus Goliath. It's God versus Goliath.